This is a listening session for city staff and our city board of directors, as well as those that have attended, and I want to thank you all for coming out. In looking around the room, I see neighbors, I see realtors, I see people who manage STRs, some that own STRs, short-term rentals. So I think we've got a good cross hatch of people in the room tonight that attended. We've had a good turnout. I can tell you we've received some emails already, and we'll continue to receive emails. Those that may think of something that they didn't have added tonight, or they didn't speak tonight and they want to have input, you're still able to do so. The email for that is strcomments, that's with an S, strcomments @cityhs.net, and we'll be receiving those through Wednesday the 24th. So, as I mentioned, this is a listening session. We won't have a Q&A with staff or the board. We won't have dialogue. We want to hear what you have to say, and we want to document that and be able to distill that down into information that we can put in written form and get that back to in a report back to our board. We won't have any decisions made tonight on any of the short-term rentals. This is an open meeting, but it's not a board's business meeting where they take action. So keep that in mind. Want to ask that everyone's respectful to each other. This is a huge issue. We have many cities across our state and across the nation that are right in the same path that Hot Springs finds ourselves in. Some have either passed short-term rental regulations, or they're in the process of developing those, or they're just now moving through that. We've seen really all kinds of ways to regulate this particular sector. And it really runs the gamut. You can see just about any kind and any type if you go online and search what other cities may have. I think Hot Springs is very unique, and so what we may see in other cities may or may not work here. So each speaker will have 3 minutes to present their comments. We've got a digital timer up here, so you can kind of keep track of that. I know some may go a few seconds over, but please try to remain in that 3 minutes so we can be respectful to everyone's time and make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak if they so wish to do so. Those that wish to speak, we have a front row that if you would, as you speak, please return to the audience and kind of shift to where we can have room for other speakers that may want to come down midway through the evening. The session will be recorded. We'll have audio and video recording. It'll be on the city's YouTube channel in the morning. We want to make sure that everyone speaks into the microphone, so we'll have good audio to go along with that video that we'll post. Mr. Cooksey's here. He'll have a post on his Hot Springs broadcast network as well. So we'll have this memorialized and be able to go back and look at some of the things that we hear tonight in case we miss it in some of the notes that we'll be taking. So I'm going to also ask that we limit sidebar conversations if we can, and so we can hear the speaker and make sure that they've got the opportunity to be heard. Please limit, and we don't really need boos, ahs, applause. We need to get through tonight, because there's going to be things that are said that you're not going to agree with. There's going to be things that are said that you do agree with. But it's important for us to be able to hear the concerns or the information that you want us to hear, to be able to document that and get that back to our board as we begin working on these regulations. Our goal is to have something back in front of the board for their May 18th board meeting as an action item. I can tell you that's a hefty lift. in looking at all the things that kind of go into this particular issue. We've seen other cities in Arkansas that, they've worked on it for quite some time. One of our cities has a 125-page document, and they've had many meetings, some to 2 in the morning with their board members, and still haven't gotten it passed. So we want to be sure that we're taking this information, that we're working diligently to get this back in front of our board. If we can get it to that May 18th meeting, then the abeyance that begins after May 30th will be moved. So that's our goal. I don't know if we'll hit it, but I can tell you that as staff and members of our board, we'll be working very hard to get through these next few weeks. This is an item that has risen to the highest priority that we have, so we'll continue to work on that. So with that, we'll start the comment section. If you would, as you come up, please state your name so we have that information. And I think we had a sign-up sheet, so we'll be able to get back in touch with you. But please state your name so we know who you are, and look forward to hearing what you have to say tonight. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Denise Little, and I live in Trevista. Dear sir and madams, thank you so much for hosting this listening meeting. We appreciate your concerns about short-term rentals. Thank you. I think that's awesome that you're doing this. How does a commercial business run in a residentially zoned neighborhood? I think the city missed the boat on the issue. Don't see how the situation can be reversed at this time. So some suggested solutions are as follows, addressing the owner, the renter, and the city. As far as the short-term rental owners, the owners need to follow neighborhood code regulations. For example, the trash buckets can't be put out on the curb until 6 p.m. the night before trash pickup and must be removed the next day at a certain time. We have situations in Trevista where people leave them out all week long. I can't do that as a neighbor. Why should they be able to do that? For instance, the grass shouldn't be higher than 6 inches, just like I have to keep my lawn. A suggestion that short-term rental owners could be required to leave a copy of the neighborhood codes in the rental. Now, we know they're probably never going to get read. However, this could be tastefully done, including a letter from the city manager or the mayor welcoming renters to our wonderful city. It could even include some of our tourist attractions, etc. Additionally, if possible, the short-term rental website could have a link to the city's neighborhood codes where potential renters have to check that they have read them. This could be a protective measure for the owners. A word about the renters. Follow neighborhood code regulations, city noise ordinances, etc. They only know about these codes specific to our city if there's a copy online or in the rental. And lastly, suggestions for the city. Increase the license fee from $50 a bed to $500 a bed annually. Or at least make it more in line with the hotel licensing fee since they are running a business. Fine owners for violating neighborhood codes. For example, if the trash bucket is left out past 6 p.m. on the second day, fine them $50 a bucket per day. Hire short-term rental code enforcers and have one working on the weekend from 3 till midnight. With the money raised from the increased licensing fee, 2 or 3 short-term rental code agents could certainly enforce regulations. Control the density of the rentals by limiting the number of rentals in a neighborhood. For example, these should be limited to 10 to 15% of the neighborhood homes. This would have to be obviously regulated by the city. Mandate proof of short-term rental insurance be included with licensing applications. Require proof of insurance be provided annually. I suspect many are not insured as a business. Hotels can't go without a business. Why should they? and require owners to post an adult occupancy maximum, just like the hotels do. This could protect them if someone decides to have more people in a rental than is safe. Thank you for hearing the suggested solutions.
Oh, go ahead, ma'am. I'm sorry.
My name is Laveda Johnson, and I too live in Tri Vista. I emailed the board and the mayor and the city attorney and city manager last night, but just in case you haven't had time to read it, I thought I would go over my points again. As I said, we live in Tri Vista, which used to be an upscale neighborhood, but is now turned into a commercial neighborhood. From 103 Tri Vista left to 207 Tri Vista left, we have 4 STRs and 1 assisted living. That's out of 8 total homes. And we have 1 STR on Tri Vista right. I don't think any of you would like to have this in your neighborhood. We're looking for answers and hoping you see the predicament that we're faced with and do something about these STRs. There's absolutely no reason for this to be allowed. STRs destroy the neighborhood. Hotels, motels aren't allowed in neighborhoods, so why are STRs? Furthermore, they should be charged the same rate as the businesses on Central Avenue. After all, they are a business. The city should require sales tax, an annual licensing fee of at least $1,500 or more, and get rid of the $50 per bed. Sales tax and hotel tax should be charged and collected. They should be required to have a business phone on the side of their property for safety. They should have a sprinkler system should be required in case of fire. In other words, STRs should have the same requirements as hotels and motels. STRs are unfair to the hotel industry and affects them negatively for tourism. Right now, there are 3 large gray trash cans sitting on the sidewalk at 107 Tri Vista left and have been there since Saturday. They have the sidewalk blocked. Our trash comes Thursday morning, so the 3 trash cans will have been on the sidewalk for 5 days. City ordinance says trash should be put out not be put out before 6 p.m. the day before pickup. I called solid waste department this morning, was told that they would let the supervisor know. The trash cans are still there. We're looking for answers to our concerns and hopefully a solution that will be satisfactory to all of us. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Keith Blecka, and I live here in Hot Springs area. And I wanted to visit with you on a couple of topics. We have 2 short-term rentals that we take care of here in town, as well as another one for a son. First off, when we started in this world of rentals, we were buying houses in another city to do long-term rentals. And it was brought to our attention by the city that there was a need for short-term rentals because there weren't enough beds based on the number of tourists that were coming into the city. So we decided that a short-term rental would be an interesting thing to do. So we took 2 houses that were totally dilapidated. I'd be more than happy to show you the pictures of the before and after, and turned them into a home that if we lived in it, we would want to, because that's our goal, is to make something that's worthwhile for everybody else to live in. We also, when we did this, have a goal, is that these homes, we want to make a private little park for our guests when they come in. So when they come in, they can go out on the back deck and sit down and watch the birds and the flowers and look at the landscape and relax from enjoying their day out in Hot Springs. One of the really interesting things is that not only do we have guests that we just rent to, we do more than that. We're actually an ambassador for Hot Springs, Arkansas, because we are the concierge of these individuals that come in from out of town. They ask us what to do, where to go, where to eat. So we have many recommendations as well as a list of things for them to do in the house. And when we recommend places to eat or places to go, it's not the chains, it's the local restaurants, it's the local establishment. So we are here to keep the money coming in to the local attorneys, or into the citizens of this city. So we are actually doing a huge service for the city. The other thing that I wanted to visit with you very quickly about is the trash concern. Very interesting. I read this article in the newspaper today about how everybody was so excited about having the state basketball tournament here. And I thought, trash. Seems to be that everybody is concerned about vacation rentals generating more trash. Well, the deal is that vacation rentals based on VRBO and Airbnb, we have about 30% vacancy rate. If you look at the trash, where does the trash go? It goes to the same landfill that the trash from the hotels, the businesses. So we're not generating more trash. We're actually generating less trash because it's all going to the same place and it's being controlled. I appreciate your time and we'll talk to you again. Thank you.
Okay, I'm
One by the racetrack and one over on the Allen Avenue.
So we're going to continue without sidebar conversations. You'll be able to maybe catch them outside if you need to speak with anybody that's spoken or you have some questions for them. One of the things I didn't mention, please keep your mask on if you're up moving around in the auditorium. If you're sitting next to someone you live with, your spouse, feel free to take that off if you've got social distancing. But if you're up moving around, please wear your mask. And restrooms, we've got restrooms outside the doors on both sides of Horner Hall. You can take either corridor and be able to find a restroom. And we've also got hand sanitizers spread out throughout the facility and one here for the speakers. So that's just a couple of housekeeping rules that I omitted a moment ago. So sir, if you'd like to come up and speak next, we're ready.
I'd like to thank the city again for giving us a forum to express our ideas about the short-term rental regulation and licensing. I'm Richard Donovan Papp. I have been a Airbnb host going on 2 years, hosted over 150 parties with guests. I use that term party to describe group couples or single guests. I have a smaller scale operation. The paradigm for travel has changed, and that's why, as we know, cities across the nation are grappling with how to deal with what is now a new means to travel. When I travel, I short-term rental. That's what I prefer. We have people coming to Hot Springs whose experience is enhanced by a different sort of stay, a different sort of visit. We'll always have people that enjoy hotels, but I think we are now in an age where there are a lot of people who like to travel. In the Airbnb paradigm. I want to speak real quick to my neighborhood and how my neighborhood has improved as a result of short-term rentals. I live in the Park Avenue neighborhood, and I want to make the point that if you walked around there 10 years ago, and looked at properties. We have a lot of derelict properties around the Park Avenue neighborhood that have been sitting there for years, waiting for action to be taken by absentee owners, or some of them long-term rentals that are just not looked after. Airbnb and short-term rentals have given my neighborhood a facelift. And I'm kind of on the front line of that, because if it weren't for the short-term rental potential, I would not have moved into my house. I would not have fixed it up, enhanced the look of the neighborhood. And so in my case, when I walk up Randall Street, or I walk up Pullman or Bauer Street, I see people that have moved into this town and invested in it, and another point on that is that, so presently we've enhanced the look of the neighborhood. Going forward, some of us may decide to put these homes on the market. We may decide we don't want to do short-term rentals anymore. My point being that going to the future, we've made an investment in Hot Springs that's going to be around when you go in and you take a property that's in very poor condition and turn it into a nice home. I think that's about it. Thanks again, Bill. Thanks.
Hello, my name's Anna. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Oh, okay, thank you. My husband and I'm a homeowner. I'm a short-term rental owner in the District 1 area. So I purchased my personal home and I own my business in Hot Springs, or in that same district. So my husband and I moved here from Oregon 8 years ago, almost 8 years ago. And we moved here to be closer to family. But as you know, Hot Springs is very strong tourist town. And it was very difficult to find the income that we needed to support our family. We have 5 children. And we worked really hard. We started our own business cleaning houses. My husband worked for numerous places, sometimes more than one job. And when we decided to invest in short-term rentals in Hot Springs, it was a ray of hope for us. It was a way for us to provide for our family like we had never done before. And since then, we take great pride in providing a safe, clean, healthy, and inviting environment for our guests. We have hosted for almost 3 years in May. And we've had over 500 parties stay in our Airbnb units. That's a lot of people. And we talk to most of them face to face. We clean the home ourselves. We pest control, we do ourselves. We have security cameras. We have a list of rules and regulations for all of our guests. We keep monitor on them on outside. If they're too loud, we call them. If they are not obeying the house rules, we ask them to leave. We take care of our trash. We monitor the yard. We sometimes even mow the vacant housing yards next to us so that our home looks better. So we take great, great pride in what we do. And I find that the $50 fee per bed is reasonable. It's a big jump from $4 a bed, I'll say. I would like to see that money go towards resources that are actually going to keep people accountable. I don't see that in some areas of the city. Vacant housing, I know it's a really loaded gun. I don't see it being followed through with in the care and attention that's needed for vacant housing in our city, especially in District 1. Where is our tax dollars going to protect us when my neighbor, who I've lived in the same home for 8 years, the house next door to me has been vacant for 8 years? What is being done about his dilapidated home that has a family of raccoons living in it? that come to my front porch every night. These are problems, and I know there's a lot more to that story. There's a lot more to what the city has done. There's a lot of things that I've been impressed with when I contact the city and complain. There's some ways that they have intervened that I've been thankful for, but the problem is still there. On top of that, long-term rentals in my neighborhood, they are not kept accountable. My home is increasing, all my homes, my personal and my business homes are increasing the values of all the homes in the neighborhood, but I'm fighting against all the other homes that are falling apart. They're lowering the value of the homes in our neighborhood. And it's a vicious cycle. And so me and a few other neighbors, we take great pride in our neighborhood. So we worked hard to contact the city and to make efforts to see change in our neighborhood. We're invested. So my hope as we move forward with short-term rental rules and regulations is that we would take into account that this is not just another business in a neighborhood. This is actually a livelihood for a lot of people. It's an industry for Hot Springs, and it needs to be taken seriously as a legitimate source of income for the people of the city and not just be a place where we can take money. It needs to be seen as the long-term and short-term need to be treated the same, in my opinion. Same rules and regulations. Hotels, honestly, in my opinion, hotel, motel, short-term rentals need to be treated the same. I take great care in my facility. I don't have any complaints from my neighbors because I take so much care and concern. But how many hotel motels can say that, that they don't have any complaints from their neighbors? So anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ricky Rogers. That was my wife, Anna. And I won't talk on the things that she did, but, well, yeah, we moved here. We love Hot Springs, and we love our short-term rental, and we love being ambassadors for Hot Springs. We have over 500 guests, and I can't tell you how many vacations we have actually planned for our guests. And we tell them where to eat, where to play, where to swim. Little things like Charlton Campground. Most motels won't even tell people about that place because they don't know. And we take great pride in our place. And it has definitely increased the value of homes. Even abandoned homes that are being sold now for cash are worth more than they were before short-term rentals were hit the market. I don't think that our short-term rentals are anything like motels or hotels. I don't think we should be treated like them. If that's the case, Motel 6 should have their rooms look as good as my home and put in that same furniture if we're going to be treated the same. Our homes have great pride, great care in them that blow away any hotel on Central, at least all your lower ones that have drug dealers and all kinds of crazy stuff happening. We don't have that. I personally would rather have short-term rental neighbors than long-term rental neighbors on Bower. That's where I live. I mean, it's crazy, the long-term rentals. They're all drug dealers. They're all pimps. They're trashing their homes. They're loud. And at least with our Airbnb, they have pride. They love our homes. They take care of them. It's a huge difference. So I don't want to be treated the same. I don't think that holds any water. We've had many last-minute bookings for people who cannot find a place to stay in a hotel. So the hotels are doing fine, in my opinion. I think they're doing great. Our guests love how personal our homes are. They love that it feels like a home. Like Richard said, if they want to go to a hotel, they can go to a hotel. When we travel, we always stay at Airbnbs because we love the personal feel. We love meeting the homeowners. We love their personal touches. It's better than just your wood paneling little end table that was $30 at Walmart. We put in nice oak, heavy duty. It's different. It's so different. I don't want to be treated the same. I think that the neighborhoods that maybe have complaints towards short-term rentals, the trash being left out all day, that's not our case, but we also live here. So I think that the people that own homes here, that live here, should have a discount. Instead of, like, if I was from Texas and I just bought a home, I didn't live here, and I was hiring Evolve, which is a management company, they're not monitoring the home the same way I am. I'm the eyes and ears of my home, and I'm personal. So we're just different. I think there should be a discount for people who live here. I'm Ricky Rogers, and I'm Hot Springs. Mike's gone.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak about this short-term rental. My name's Joe France, and I own several short-term rentals, and recently moved to Hot Springs and bring in quite a bit of investment dollars to Hot Springs to expand short-term rentals. We've been doing it for 3 or 4 years. We love it. We've never had any problems with the police. Very few instances with trash or anything like that, because we monitor our properties as well, like the gentleman before. I did see a need for Hot Springs when I first started. I know there's some objections from people, and they don't get it. You know, they buy a house, they want to live there for the rest of their life. But people do travel differently these days, and there's a need for short-term rentals. And if they're looking at Hot Springs versus another city, and another city has more short-term rentals to stay in, quite possibly they're going to go to a different place for their vacation. This is Chris Post. We are co-developing a development just for short-term rental houses and trying to cure some of the problem that some neighbors have with other neighbors. And we bought a substantial piece of property to lay down the bill of assurance where you can have them, you can buy them, you can invest in them. If we sell some, then you can buy them and run them yourself, and there's going to be no complaints there. So Chris might want to add something, or thank you for your time.
As Joe said, my name is Chris Post. I started my company, Silverkey Properties, back in 2012, and it was long-term residentials in the Benton area. I have about 40 houses right now, with the hopes of someday getting out of corporate America and kind of, going off and doing my own thing. And I bought actually 2 houses from Joe on Lake Hamilton a couple years ago. And I'll just kind of reiterate what all the other owners said. I take great pride in my houses. I put a lot of, when I bought them, like, he spent a lot of money fixing them up, and I kind of took them a bit farther, put new hardwood floors in. I need to put a new roof on one and gutters, and I'm kind of done. But the short-term rental space is competitive. Like, your pictures need to pop. They need to look crisp, because if there's something wrong with it, that guest is going to go to the next house. And I say that to say, we spend a lot of money on these houses. We take a lot of pride in these houses to keep them nice, to keep them looking great. And I guess that's all I got. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aaron Burrows. I'm a lifetime resident of Hot Springs. I know many of you here in the community as well. I'm very thankful for what we have here in Hot Springs. I've had a chance to move around a little bit and live in some other states, and I'm thankful for what we have with the vacation environment and the residential environment. My grandfather and my father have all done subdivisions, and we take pride in the community. And we see there's a balance in Hot Springs between vacation and residence. And that is a tough item to balance. And that's something we're going to have to negotiate as a city, but we can't run off the vacation people or the retirement people that are coming in because we were here first. It's kind of selfish to say we're here first and we don't want anybody else. We're going to close the door behind us. I've been here 8 years or 20 years or 30 years or 3 generations, and now that I'm here, nobody else can come in. I don't want any more development. I don't want these woods that I've looked at for years to be developed. We can't close the door because somebody had to clear that land and put in the houses that people are living in now. And that was done before they got here, and now they're able to enjoy it. Just want to point out that the city of Hot Springs, we see that we're a vacation destination, and we've even imposed taxes on ourselves. We voluntarily agreed to a 3% A&P tax to put on retirements and hotels to draw more people. We want more people to come to Hot Springs because they bring money to our community. So we need to continue to invite and build that. We're spending $100 million right now on water expansion so we can build and develop more. But if we don't continue to make room for that new development, if we can't stand the mud and the dirt that happened during construction, it's kind of a messy middle, but that stuff passes, and then we've got nice, beautiful landscaped communities that people want to come to. And just want to also point out that in the process of developing these regulations, if the city is not careful, they could drive people out of the city limits where they'll want to develop in the county. And that 1.5% sales tax and that 3% sales tax that could be paid to the city won't be paid if they're living in the county. And worse than that, if we have developers who are coming here willing to spend their money and develop property, if they don't feel invited or welcome here, they're going to take their money and go to the neighboring states. They're going to go to Missouri. They're going to go to Tennessee. They're going to go to Florida. They're going to go to Colorado. And they're not going to spend their money here. Or they're going to go to another city in Arkansas. So we want to make it inviting and just try in the process of balancing those needs to not run off or make it so strenuous that we drive the people out of the city and the developers away from Hot Springs. And I know y'all want to do what's best for Hot Springs, so I appreciate your time.
Hi, my name is John Cooksey. I've had vacation rentals in this town since 2008. I'm also a realtor with Hot Springs Realties, and I see all the different sides of the issue. You know, Denise was right, and Tri-Vista, you don't want extra garbage. You don't want a lot of trash. You don't want noise. And the question is, can those people in Tri-Vista and other neighborhoods get together, sort of self-regulation, and say, let's work this out so it works for both parties? They had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and how many people knew about that meeting before the day it happened? So nobody here knew about the meeting before the day it happened. No hands are up. Y'all raise your hand if you know the meeting I'm talking about. Okay? The meeting from, what day was that meeting? Does anybody know where they decided on this? On the moratorium? So that was a few weeks ago. I would like to see the public know about it a little farther in advance, because we're talking about raising $750,000 a year through these fees and then possibly increasing them in the town. So what would you do with this $750,000? I say, just like Ricky and Anna would talk about, put it into code enforcement. More lawyers, more enforcers, whatever it needs to do to take care of these dilapidated houses around town. Anybody out here have a vacation rental and the people say, can we ask you a question? We're from Texas, we're from Missouri. Yeah, go ahead, ask me the question. Well, what's the deal with all the abandoned, dilapidated buildings? Does anybody have an answer that you give them? I have not had one. And it's quite frankly, it's embarrassing when I've had to go down to code 4 times in 4 months, and a house next to my long-term rental, it has not been fixed up. It has junk outside. The windows are literally broken. The roof is falling in. And after 4 months, they say, we'll send them a letter. I blame that we don't have enough staff. The city does not have enough staff to take care of what's going on. And y'all know it. Y'all seen the broken down houses. There's nobody there to take care of it. And obviously, I was in Orlando, I've been in Vegas, I've been in Chicago. How do they take care of them there? They have more staff. We have very good code people here, but they're overworked. And the inspectors are way overworked. The only way to do that is take the money we are raising, $750,000, I guess is the estimate. Let's take that money we're raising and let's invest in the manpower to make this town a better place. And we can't do it without the manpower. The city is growing faster than anybody expected, and yet the staffing levels are the same. Let's take that money from the bed tax or whatever we want to do, and let's put it where it needs to be, and that make this city great from one end to the other, from one street to another, a very good-looking town. Thank you.
My name is Joe Gosley. I'm a third-generation real estate broker and developer. I've been here all my life. And I am also developing, like Joe Frank, a pretty big project that will be, we're guessing, 80 to 90% nightly rental. So I'm obviously for it, but I am so thankful for this meeting that the board of directors has called, because something needs to be done. I've lived next door to nightly rentals for, I don't know, over 2 years. 90% of the time it's fine. But when you walk out in your parking lot and it's 2:30 in the morning, there are 20 cars lined up and down the street, and there's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath basement apartment that they've rented, and there's 5 squad cars out there, and I'm talking to them, and they said, we can't do anything. Something's got to change. You know, or when you've got a 1,900 square foot house, and the last I heard, it was advertised to sleep 20 people. People can't be stacked in there like cordwood. That's ridiculous. And you got 8 cars parked up and down the street, and the trash, whoever brought that up, something needs to be done on that aspect. And if they want to increase the bed fees, I'm all for it. And I'm a developer, but the time has come. This trend is not going to go away. And if you do suppress it, it's going to cost the real estate market drastically. So let's get some regulations. John brought up a good point. They don't have the staff to do these. 3 cars on a weekend could not do it. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Well, hello. My name is Ken McRae, and I live in Little Rock. But the reason I'm here is that we own a home at 205 5 Points Road, and along with just 5 neighbors in that area. And the reason I am here is that there has been a development that was proposed by Mr. France, who was just here, and Mr. Burrows, who is the engineer. And it's for 27 homes, all of which would be approved as short-term rental. Short-term rental is not a term I was even really familiar with until we saw the application. The particular project they're going to build is fine. We have no issue with that at all. It's the use of the property. And the situation that we're afraid of is what the gentleman just spoke to a moment ago, is when there are 27 homes, short-term rental, is being proposed with customary accessory buildings. We don't know what that means. It could be an event center. We don't know. So we're very concerned, just as neighbors, about what this might be. This particular property is zoned RL, which is Lake Residential. And zoning for a residential neighborhood is there to protect itself and provide leisure living and a protection from intrusive commercial activity. If you have 27 homes that are being offered as daily rental with accessory buildings, it's essentially a de facto hotel that has been approved or could be approved to be in a residential area. We do not oppose short-term rentals. I stay in them. Having a short-term rental in one house or 1 or 2 in an area is completely okay. That is a trend that's not going to go away. But to have the scope and scale of a large development as a short-term rental is very concerning to us. So we are very supportive of the city of Hot Springs in exploring regulatory controls and tools that can be used for short-term rentals and hopefully preserve our neighborhood. So thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Mayor, directors, Bill, for letting us come here and discuss this. Thanks for letting us do it live and not Zoom, it's wonderful to see a nice crowd out. My name is Rob Fouts. I do live in Tri-Vista, and I have some neighbors here. I also have the honor of serving as president of the Hot Springs Board of Realtors currently. And I just wanted to talk about some of the economic impacts that we have seen in our neighborhoods with these short-term rentals. What we've seen is the concentration of most of these are either lake, around Oaklawn, and of course downtown in the Park Avenue, Whittington area. Lake is something else. What I want to discuss as far as around the Oaklawn, Park Avenue, Whittington area, these are older neighborhoods, and as we've heard earlier, there's been some dilapidated properties, and we all know that. What we have seen in the course, really the last 2 or 3 years, are investors. They're coming in, spending thousands of dollars, and they are putting money into these homes, hiring local contractors. They're buying from local home improvement centers. They are furnishing these with furniture from local businesses. So the economic impact's been huge. What we've also seen is that these neighborhoods have slowly, one by one, we're just seeing an improvement here. When this house gets improved, we're seeing the next guy do it. It's attracting more investment dollars. So the economic impact in our community has been huge. I love Hot Springs. I love old houses. And there's some beautiful architecture in these old neighborhoods. And the short-term rental has actually given incentive to investors to go in, they see an opportunity here, and they are fixing these homes up. And there's a big difference. These neighborhoods I'm talking about, Park Avenue, Whittington, around Oaklawn, there's already a high concentration of long-term rentals. And what we see the difference is, short-term versus long-term, I'm for both, by the way, we're pro-real estate, is that the short-term rentals are putting more money in their homes, they're maintaining them in a way that's keeping neighborhoods up. Some of these neighborhoods with long-term rentals, a lot of the owners, they just want to get that income each month. They're going to do what they can to maintain the home, fix things here and there. But when you see the short-term guys come in, they're coming in and putting thousands of dollars, improving it. We're seeing the whole neighborhood slowly start to come up, and they deserve it. We live in a beautiful, I love Hot Springs. We live in a wonderful town. We are a resort town. And so we're a little different than some of these other towns, and I know we're trying to grapple with what's going on out there. But I see it as a positive. I think as realtors, we believe in a balanced approach. And we want what's best for Hot Springs. And we love real estate, we love homes, and we do, let's see the time, we do see a positive from a real estate standpoint, values, with these neighborhoods coming back slowly, little by little, and just drive through these neighborhoods up there. And you guys have been here all your life, Bill, it's changed. And that's going to try, and this is long term. We're not putting just a little paint on these houses. These guys are renovating inside out and maintaining. So anyway, I just happy to be here. And you know, again, I know it's a tough decision. Cities around the country are grappling with this. Everyone has a different approach. We want what's best for Hot Springs because we love Hot Springs. Thank you.
I am Glenda Dunn, and I live on Buena Vista Road, and I am certainly not opposed to short-term rentals. If you own a single house in a neighborhood and it's short-term rental, that's fine, not a problem. What my concern is that the lack of the regulations on short-term rentals are allowing or causing the Planning Commission and all not to be able to regulate the number of property that's considered short-term rental. What this is allowed, it's allowing a 42-room VRBO, which is a quasi-hotel motel, no matter what you want to call it. That is a quasi-hotel motel. It is allowing that to be built in a residential neighborhood. It is also allowing a subdivision of 24 to 28, I can't remember the exact number, 4-bedroom homes that are all going to be short-term rentals in this same residential neighborhood that is one ingress and egress off of Central Avenue. So what is happening is you're going to have that many more people traveling. That is a commercial project. There should be an allowance for some type of commercial zoning and requirements for that. They should have to be able to comply with commercial rules and not high-density residential. Residential is something that someone lives in, either long-term or owner-occupied or whatever. But it is not a 42-room, short-term VRBO on the lake that is gonna have a boat ramp and talking about sea-doo ramps and swimming pool. That is gonna, I mean, that says nothing but party city on the weekends. And we live just across the very, very small cove from it and are gonna have to listen to that all weekend, all summer long, because everybody comes to the lake to get out on the lake, have a good time, come back, grill, swim in the pool, have a good loud time, and residential people are gonna have to deal with this, that live there all the time. So that's why I'm asking for regulations. And the regulations that I have looked at, they have maximum occupancies in the properties. Typically, it's between 15 to 25, no matter how many structures are on the property or how many rooms are available on the property. They require that a small percentage of the homes in the neighborhood be allowed to be short-term rentals. So again, I am not at all opposed to short-term rentals. I think they're great. People do keep them up better because vacationers are coming to them. What I'm opposed to is quasi-hotel motels being built under short-term rental regulations and not as a commercial property. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Lamond. I spent years traveling through Hot Springs and Arkansas in business and owned a second home here for years, and my wife and I made a decision last year to move here full time. We're here by choice. We made a lifetime commitment and a sizable investment here. I want to thank the mayor and the directors for listening. I've been a user of short-term rentals, and I'm now living with short-term rentals, so I'm seeing some of the positives of both sides of the deal. I live at the end of a cul-de-sac street. I drive by 3 short-term rentals coming and going when I come and go. 2 are across the street, and the 3rd and 4th lot down from me. A little further down is the 3rd one. We understand there are 2 more houses likely within this block that has 17 lots in it. So it's a matter of density and how many do you want to live by. I think you've heard a lot about things that we've seen as problems. Parking overflowing into the yards. Again, we have one home that's 5 lots from me that advertises accommodations for 22 people. It looks no bigger than your normal 3-4 bedroom house. It has off-street parking for 4 cars, 4 vehicles. They create problems. Parking up and down the streets create hazards for children playing, potentially for police, fire, and EMT and ambulance people coming and going. Trash is an issue when you have a neighbor with 3 to 4 trash cans sitting out 24/7 and the associated litter and overflow from those trash cans with absentee owners who seldom come by. Noise is an issue. You know, I think you've heard enough and you will pay attention to the noise issue. Landscaping is sometimes an issue too. So what we ask is a couple of things that our board go beyond just the short-term rental ordinance and also be aware and help coordinate with other jurisdictions, because a lot of the things that you have to do and the problems that you're hearing about go beyond just what I think can be covered with the city ordinance. We ask that you collect all taxes. I'm not sure if the 3% extra tax that hotels and accommodations pay is collected in all cases. And be open to support any future legislation that's needed at the state or other levels. We ask that you consider off-street parking requirements relative to the number of people in the home, noise restrictions, times a day, excuse me, and occupancy limits that are tied somehow to the size of the dwelling, but also the lot. We had a situation a street over from us where actually a busload of high school students was dropped off at a house where alcohol was being served. And we have another situation where the crowd got so large they were spilling out into the street and out onto the lake. We live in an older neighborhood. We built a new home in that neighborhood, and we love our neighbors. And we're here because we're in this particular neighborhood because of the neighbors. And so we don't want to be over. We want full-time neighbors around us so that we can be a part of the community. So we ask you provide for the authority to prevent, to mitigate, and to handle problems that come up. We ask you to consider enforcement issues, that you have the resources to take care of that, and recognize the density that when you get past a certain level of short-term in a neighborhood or on a street, that's not really consistent with residential zoning. In closing, I'd ask you to consider this. Imagine that you will have multiple short-term rentals on your street, including on both sides of you and directly across the street of you. And I trust you to make wise decisions. Thank you for your time.
I'm Phyllis Whitman. I'm not a speaker, so I'm going to help. God, I can't talk. Bear with me. 33 years ago, we built a house on Sunset Bay Road. It was a dead-end. It's a dead-end street on the lake, and it was a good, old, established neighborhood. You're fine. And we liked it there. Now, within a 2-block area, there are 4 Airbnbs, or whatever you want to call them. One of the houses rents to 22 people. They've closed in the garage, made it into bedrooms. They have a 4-car parking street. And so, with 22 people, you're going to have more than 4 cars. So they go up, they're halfway in the yards and halfway on the street. This is a narrow street. I don't think anybody, the traffic, the fire trucks, the things could get down there. On the other end, there's a house that is made for just a 3-bedroom house. It sleeps 18 people. They have a 4-car driveway. I added those numbers together, and that's 40 people every week, all during the rental time, who's in our neighborhood. We don't know them. We don't know where they're from. We used to know everybody in the neighborhood. That's 40 people that we know in those 2 houses. And there are 2 other houses. We don't know exactly how many they hold. They probably sleep 10 to 12 people. That's a lot of people in your neighborhood that you don't know anything about. And it's just a little bit frightening because there's so many cars on the street. There's always traffic. There are always people walking that we don't know. It's kind of disarming to me. We have heard that there is a 5th house going to open up shortly as a bed and breakfast or B&B, and they have enlarged their driveway and made more parking because that's pretty obvious what they're going to do. And there's one across the street from me that's probably going to do the same thing in the near future. It just bothers me that there's so many people in these houses that they're just overrun with people and they're taking over the neighborhood. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Charlotte Gold, and I thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm a native of Hot Springs. I've lived here all my life. I live on 5 Points Road. As you know, a company has purchased a large plot of land next to my neighborhood and is proposing to build a large number of houses for the sole purpose of renting them out as short-term rentals. While I do not oppose a homeowner renting out a room or an outbuilding a few times per year to supplement their income, the idea that a company can come in and build a dedicated facility for so-called short-term rentals makes a mockery of our zoning laws. How is a facility dedicated to short-term rentals any different from a commercial enterprise? It isn't. These will not be rented out just a few times per year, but the owners have clearly stated their intention to rent them year-round. This will create a traffic problem that our lake residential zone land cannot handle and increase both the intensity and the density of use in what is supposed to be for residents. It will negatively impact the quality of life for all the residents in my area. I am here to encourage the board to implement rules limiting the number of nights that a residentially zoned home can be rented out. It seems to me that an annual 30-night maximum would be a good number. Moreover, I'm here tonight to ask this board to reject the building or permitting of any facility to run exclusively as a short-term rental. A dedicated facility is no different from a hotel or a resort. It is a commercial enterprise, and it does not belong in a residentially zoned area. We have many very nice hotels and resorts available to our guests, and they too provide revenue for the city. Allowing dedicated short-term rental facilities gives developers incentive to change our neighborhoods into commercial zones. I know this board doesn't want that. Rejecting dedicated short-term facilities will allow our neighborhoods to be neighborhoods, which is what all residents want. There must be a limit on the number of nights per year that a home can be rented out. Thank you for your time.
Thank you to Mayor McCabe, the members of the Board of Directors, and City Manager Burrow for convening this kind of a listening session. My name is Lauren Adkins, and I live on Mockingbird Street off of Files Road. My family has lived on that street, my mother and grandparents, since 1970. For a few of those years, my sister and I joined them. I have seen this neighborhood change and evolve over time in a really wonderful way. Charlotte Gold was my neighbor when I was growing up. As you consider legislation to regulate short-term rentals, I would like to ask you to keep 4 objectives in mind. Number 1, to preserve the affordable housing in Hot Springs, which is often threatened by this type of a real estate development. Number 2, to preserve the residential character of established neighborhoods. Number 3, to find a way to enable residents and homeowners to make money off of the equity and the space that they have in their homes by leasing it out as a short-term rental. And number 4, to find a way to raise revenue from these short-term rentals that would be comparable to the revenue raised by hotels and motels. Thank you very much.
Hello. My name is Cheryl Dennison, and I live at 130 San Carlos Cove off of Buena Vista. And I have heard all of the things that have been said about short-term rentals, and they are here to stay. But we do need regulations. Mr. Rogers, your place sounds wonderful to stay in, but there are a lot of homeowners who have short-term rentals who don't take care of them. So you're going to need, I would say, traffic. You're going to need to talk about traffic. You're going to need to talk about parking. You're going to need to talk about safety regulations for the people who stay in these homes. Are there fire extinguishers? Are there fire protectors? All of those things, because we don't want people coming into Hot Springs and not having a good experience. So we want there to be level playing ground for all of these short-term rentals. So rules are necessary. I think those rules will benefit the city, they'll benefit the homeowners because they'll know what is expected of them. It will benefit the people who come here because they're going to come back when they have a really good experience. And it's going to benefit the neighborhoods. Now then, short-term rentals in growing neighborhoods, the developments that they're talking about, that is not a short-term rental. That is a business. That is commercial. And it's going in a residential neighborhood. That is not what Hot Springs needs. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Mike. Oops, sorry. So I started to buy short-term rentals here in 2019. My first one was a house off of Beard Street down Garland. I bought it for $6,500. Worked with the city, Mike Scott, David Gray, met all of them. That house is now selling for $109,000 to someone who's going to make it their permanent house. I went through and put HVAC in it, a new roof, new windows, all new siding, new electrical, new sewer, and new plumbing. It was my first rehab ever to do like that, and it was ridiculous. It was hard. Mike Scott yelled at me once, David Gray yelled at me once. I had learned a whole bunch of stuff, right? So from that one, I then fixed up a house on 107 Pinewood next to McClard's Barbecue. The house next door, just to be blunt, a crackhead lady owned it. And then across from that, there was this like store that the DEA kept going after for them making meth. That is all gone now because me and my team fixed up Pinewood. We were there almost every single day. I slept there during that rehab. We have maids there multiple times throughout the week. We rewired it after getting yelled at by David Gray yet again, and Mike Scott. Did a whole bunch of work there, and now that entire street is fixed up. My neighbors there love me for it, love me. We then fixed up another house off of East Street. That street also has just been nothing but houses run down, vacant owners. And now that they saw what we're doing with our house there, one of the big houses off of Park is getting fixed up. Okay, I got about a minute left. So I went here from, I graduated Lakeside in 2005. I live in Houston now, so I'm one of those out-of-state investors bringing money in. I have a cousin from Canada who's brought money here, and I have two investors now from Louisiana that brought money here. We specifically try to find beat-up homes and fix them up. Every single one that we do, literally the house right next door also gets fixed up. So that's what we do. For people that live in more residential areas like Tri-Vista and by the lake, I know that sucks. But you don't have an HOA. In Texas, if you want to live in an area that's going to be like your perfect area of the trash and the this and the that, you live in an HOA. You know your homeowners, you have meetings. You don't have that. And if it's a house, it's someone's property that they own, they should be able to do what they want within code. I'm definitely for code, for the GFIs, for the smokes, for all of that. But yeah, just want to put that out there. Okay, thanks.
Hello, I'm Angela Ezekiel. I'm a former president of Park Avenue Community Association. I would like to say that short-term rentals help save my neighborhood. I can't say enough about People coming into a neighborhood that is derelict with dilapidated houses and homeowners that live out of town, slumlords that only care about the next check coming in and not how many people are living in that apartment or in that dwelling, or whether or not the septic works, sewer works, water works, electric's on. They don't care. They just want the next check. They don't care how bad that resident takes that home down. And they don't care about the threat of not vetting those residents, what that does to the neighborhood around them. That's all right. But at the same time, short-term rentals, VRBOs, Airbnbs allow for citizens to be personal ambassadors and to create a curated experience for people who come from larger cities like Austin, Memphis, LA, people that have seen plenty of hotels. They've been in plenty of Hiltons. They want to live in a neighborhood. They want to taste what it's like to live in Spa City for a minute. They want to hear the people singing while they're doing their yard work. They want to see the people riding their bicycles. That's what they come here for, to see what small town life is like. And you know what? They buy that house down the street. They wake up the next morning and they have that fresh roasted coffee that was made right here, and they start hitting up real estate agents. And they buy a place, they fix it up, they short-term rent it with the entire hope that one day they can afford to retire from Austin, Memphis, LA, and live in that little neighborhood that they fell in love with. They bring these houses up to code, new roofs, new HVAC, new plumbing, new electric, new siding, landscaping. That's great. That has been a boon for Park Avenue. We have so many new residents that have moved here from somewhere else. They would never have even considered living here. But they came here and they fell in love because someone like Brianna told them about the cute little restaurant they might like, or the dog park, or the greenway, or they called and said, "It's my wife's anniversary. I'm booking this room." No problem, we'll get you some fresh cut flowers from the local florist and make sure you have a nice breakfast the next morning. You're not gonna get that at the Hilton. You're not gonna get that at the Family Dollar, whatever corporate establishment you're staying at. You'll get it here, and you'll get new residents, and you'll revitalize neighborhoods, and you'll grow Hot Springs. Thank you.
I thought that was excellent. I'm Darren Pretzel. I'm a local surgeon here in town. I've been here 10 years now. Time goes by. I'm investing in Hot Springs. It's just what I do. Don't know why, but I do that. I own the Vault restaurant in town. That building is the Citizens Bank building, which a lot of you are familiar with, and it's been vacant since 1971. I was born in 1971. There's also a lot of other buildings that I have now invested in that I own with a bank, and I'm putting a lot of energy into those buildings. The upper levels of those buildings are being turned into vacation rental properties. They're lofts, just 1-2 bedroom loft. Without that opportunity, those buildings would continue to be vacant in downtown Hot Springs. I can't say much about the past of why they sat vacant and why it changed hands so many times between owners, but I came along and said something needs to change with these properties, and I'm doing that. And the standard of what I do, you can see if you visit the Vault restaurant, that's the standard that I like, okay? I think that standards for the board need to be set, and I feel bad for the people that say their neighborhoods being overtaken. And I agree with the gentleman that said the homeowners association, if you form those committees, that's what needs to generate that, or the city sets standards, but the city needs to set standards, not constantly set regulations and penalties and taxes and fines, because we keep running into that scenario. If there's standards that are set, then everybody needs to meet the standard, whether it's a short-term rental, a long-term rental, or a resident. So what happens is that we end up sitting there and we're gonna go after a group. These are changing times. There's two travelers out there. One's a traveler that's gonna stay at a hotel, and there's a traveler that's gonna stay at a weekend rental. They're not gonna interchange. And they're gonna go to a destination not because of the destination, they're gonna go because they found a cool looking place to stay. And they go, where is that? Well, that's in Hot Springs. Oh, it's unavailable. Where's that one? Oh, it's Austin, Texas. I'll go there. They're not going to just show up at Hot Springs because of that weekend rental or because of the town. So it's almost like if you're going to limit the number of weekend rentals, we're thinking wrong. Hot Springs is thinking wrong. We need to think in advance. They're here to stay. And if we don't change with time, it'd be like saying, don't shop at Amazon when you're in Hot Springs because you need to go to the mall. You need to stay at the hotel, these big hotels that are going up. No, there's two types of travelers. We need to remember that in Hot Springs. And until we get that through, we're going to be retro thinkers. It's operating all around the world. Airbnbs, VRBOs, all around the world. And it's operating just fine because they're self-regulated. You want to know why? Because I get to score the renter, and the renter gets to score me. It's self-regulated. Very impressive. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ellie Cross, and my husband and I and my son, we take care of our Airbnb or, short-term property rental. We've taken so much pride in this place. We came to Hot Springs adventuring. We had not even bought a house. We just said, let's pick a place. I saw it on TV. I thought this was a beautiful place. So I said, husband, son, let's go on an adventure. We stepped into this ground and we said, this is a beautiful town. I found a wonderful person who taught me and showed me town. She's a property manager here, and she's our property manager. And between her, my husband, my son, and I have made this 5-star Superhost Airbnb, and people love it. Check the reviews of each individual. That's how you will know who has a good Airbnb and who doesn't, who takes care of their neighborhood. When we moved in, the house was a total and complete fixer-upper. And I'm a designer. I've always loved to do that. And I designed this house to where every single person that comes and stays at my property, or my husband's and my property, have nothing but the best reviews because they feel like they're at home. And not only that, people are concerned about their neighbors. What I did, I'm a people person. So when we were building or redoing, refixing, fixer-upping our home, I went to my neighbors, introduced myself, and I gave them my phone number. I told them, if I don't want ever for anybody to disturb you, because I want this to be a good experience not only for the people that we are allowing to stay at our home, but for our neighbors as well. They have my phone number, they know my name, we're friends. And they tell me, just a couple of days ago, I received a text from one of my neighbors saying how much they love my little cottage and how proud they are to have me in their neighborhood because of me and my family rebuilding this place. It made others that surround my house come and rebuild their own homes and better it and make it prettier. And that's what I'm here for. I want this town to become a gorgeous place that I feel proud of. I feel proud to show. I don't want to go around neighborhoods like I do, unfortunately, drive around and I see how many houses out there are destroyed. Beautiful houses that can be taken care of. So if anybody's concerned, about to make sure that their house is being, not disturbed, their neighbors not disturbed, have contact with your neighbors. Give them your phone number so they will tell you if somebody is making problems, for them. So please do not take away from us trying to help this community to become a better place for everybody. You know, don't punish us for trying to make your and our town a more beautiful place. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Board of Directors, City Council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Don Leonard. I'm here with my wife, Peggy, and we live here in Hot Springs. We own several homes. None of our homes are short-term rentals, Airbnbs. Actually, they're long-term rentals. To be honest with you, they're extremely long-term rentals. You see, our children live in our investment homes. Still trying to get rid of them, but anyway. I have all the respect in the world for the ladies and gentlemen that are running short-term rentals and Airbnbs and doing good for the community. I truly do. Unfortunately, I'm at the other end of the spectrum. I live on the lake, have an Airbnb owned by people that live in Houston. The home used to belong to the principal at Hot Springs High many years ago. His wife was vice principal at Lake Hamilton. Wonderful people. They retired, moved up to the Northwest. Now it's an Airbnb. We have the trash can problems, we have parking problems. Woke up one day, I had a limousine in my driveway, and I have a circular drive, and I still couldn't get out of my drive. I've had up to 30 people staying next door at a 3,000 square foot home. I've had 22 people, I counted, one weekend. But the big problem, and it was touched on, is that the homes that I'm referring to were built in the mid-90s. They are on sewer systems, Hot Springs Water and Sewer. I just had a brand new sewer system put in 4 days ago. It's the second one this year. You see, I'm on a grinder system. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. And it has a tank, grinder pump, and 2 residential homes share that. And then it's pumped up to the sewer. One of those people pay for the electric. In my situation, it's me. The electric to run the grinder system that accommodates 2 residential homes, I pay for the electric. Now, of course, the 1 residential home is commercial. That system cannot handle adequately 30 people or 22 people. In fact, it's so bad, ladies and gentlemen, I called the EPA and I didn't get an answer. I did try to call the Arkansas State Department of Health. I didn't get any help. So I went to the EPA in Dallas. Dallas gives you a phone number in Washington, D.C. Nobody answers that. Mr. Westerman is helping me right now. He's looking into the problem. But I think that when you see an inadequate sewage system and you see it running into Lake Hamilton, we really have to ask ourselves, what are we doing? You know, we need to really look into this problem. And how did just overnight a residential home in a residential neighborhood become a commercial business without adequate facilities to accommodate that? It's a health issue. I know that's not everywhere. I know it's not every Airbnb or short-term rental. My hat is off to the ladies and gentlemen that run the adequate and good rentals. It's great to bring people here to this beautiful town. But the other end of the spectrum really needs to be looked at. So I am in favor of regulation, and I thank you very much for your time.
My name is Melissa Lax. I'm a broker with Hot Springs First Choice Realty, and I actually had the opportunity with Bo Durbin to speak to you guys back at the board meeting. So you know where Bo and I were coming from on a lot of the issues. But I just want to say, and I personally do not own an Airbnb. My husband and I live on a street of 7 homes. It's a dead end. We've been there for 23 years. There are 2 active Airbnbs on our street, and I can tell you that in the 5 years that our next door neighbor has been Airbnb in that property, we've had an issue twice. 2 times. That's it. And it was resolved quickly. Most of the time they're asking my husband and I where to go to dinner, what to do in town, what's fun, you know, activities. And we're always happy to share our favorites about our city. So there's that. But the second point I want to make is for that matter, there's a lot of people that have rented to a bad long-term rental or renter, you know, and wanted to get that person out. At least that short-term renter, they're only there a few days and then they're gone. And I think that Dr. Pretzel made a great point with the review system that regulates a lot of it. But the one thing I want to talk about, you know, Hot Springs, we're a family destination. We're not just couples, we're not singles, we're a family destination. And, you know, Gary and our youngest son played baseball, and we traveled the nation playing ball. And we've stayed in city after city after city after city. It's hard to stay in a hotel with kids. It's hard. You know, unless you have a 2-bedroom suite, there's not enough room for you in a hotel. Airbnbs, a lot of families, that's their choice. They're bringing their kids, they're bringing their grandparents, cousins. I mean, it's a place that people can gather. And I think for the most part, people that are coming here are not coming to party. They're not coming to tear up a house. They're not coming to make, you know, the neighbors miserable for a few days. They're coming to truly enjoy the city with the people that they love, that they don't get to see very often, or just to take a break from their busy life and get away with their kids. You know, we're building a new ballpark. That's going to bring in a lot of visitors, a lot of ball players. And again, hotels are not ideal all the time. When Gary and I travel and we're by ourselves, sure, we stay in hotels. When I'm going to see my son down in New Orleans, I'm in a hotel. But when we're traveling as a family, Airbnb is our choice. And I think that there's room for both in this town. And I think that with tourism being our industry, that both can thrive. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Jones, and we do live in Hot Springs. I was born and raised here, moved away, came back, moved away, came back. Hot Springs is my love, so I totally and completely appreciate everything that is on somebody's heart and mind about the possibilities of things changing. But if things don't change, then we don't progress. And if we don't progress, we don't draw in businesses. And if we don't draw in businesses, our kids have nothing to come back to work at or in when they graduate from college. And therefore, we will become a dying community. And if we want Hot Springs to thrive, we can't allow ourselves to become a dying community. And I'm just going to kind of read this because I'll run out of time if I don't. I do appreciate so much the opportunity to speak tonight and so much getting to hear what everybody has to say. I am here tonight representing 13 people who couldn't be here. We do all have varied outlooks on this, but we all see the benefits and the need. We do all agree that if you have one, you must take care of it and regulate what is allowed to take place there. You can't have a party house in the middle of a family subdivision. I mean, that we know that's obvious. I can tell you that one of these people came to Hot Springs just as a long weekend destination because they'd never been here. They now own 4 gorgeous homes that are, part of them are Airbnb, and then one it's their vacation home. We hear the concern about there are too many condo units that have too many people or too many cars. There are too many Airbnbs, too many VRBOs in a neighborhood. Is it not possible, and I'm asking this, for a condo community or a small community or a subdivision to create a POA that regulates that within? So when you buy the house, you know I'm buying in an area where I can't do an Airbnb. I know when we lived in North Carolina and where we lived in Florida, that was a regulation. Of course, they've had, this going on for quite a while now. Maybe if you regulate, and I know parking's a big issue, regulate 1 car per bedroom. Then you know exactly how many cars that can be brought, and they can always drop a car off at a parking lot downtown and pay parking and, carpool if they have an extra one. The concern about diminishing low rent housing. And I know it's a great deal that we need, and in fact, so many times our landlords can't afford to continue to repair these homes every time someone moves out of them. In our neighborhood, we live in the St. Louis Street area. I can name you right now 5 houses that on a regular basis the renters move out of and the owners have to gut completely. You'll see all the garbage out in the yard, you'll see carpets ripped out, you'll see sheetrock that's ripped out. They have long-term rentals, but the yards have been trashed, the houses have been destroyed, and again, I agree with what she said. At least with a short-term rental, you can say, no, we don't have a vacancy for you the next time that you come, if you find that out. Another question, is it possible for Hot Springs to acquire grants and to build more low-rent housing areas? Instead of saying, you can't buy that rundown house and improve it and use it to make an income from, or in order to entice people to come to Hot Springs, couldn't we allow those homes to be bought, to be renovated, to be brought back up to a beautiful standard, and to draw people in, and then also work towards giving low rent housing that is needed. Investment properties being empty is less an issue when they are rented once or twice a week, requiring the housekeeper and the maintenance workers to come in and on a consistent basis check the house out. So if you're doing an Airbnb, it's not like, well, there's so many empty houses in Hot Springs because they're Airbnbs or VRBOs. If we do that, we do keep a check on it. If it's just a vacation rental and I'm only here a month a year or a month and a half a year, I'm not going to be able to keep an eye on it like I could. Upgrades are done in most areas, and often, or less often, will these homes run down like they will in the low rent housing homes. I've noticed in the yards of low rent housing, a lot of time they stockpile things, they collect things. If they've lived there for many years, they're almost like an antique shop in the yard, and I see that in our area too. We have to remember that this new business possibility brings in tourists that will spend money and refer friends and family to Hot Springs. Families do want a group gathering and an atmosphere. We do when we go. We want to be able to be together. This makes it possible to keep a family home. That's us. We inherited a family home that we're not ready to let go of. But without some kind of an income, we're not going to be able to maintain it and to pay the bills and stuff that we need to monthly, and that's important to us. My parents took a home on Park Avenue that was falling apart, and it's now a gorgeous home. And my mom lived the last years of her life there and died there. We're creating a clean and good-looking home. We are a tourist town, and if we can possibly pay it forward to the future so that our kids can see the encouragement that we have for them and bring more business back to Hot Springs.
Hi, I'm Denise Townsend. I wasn't on the list, so sorry. My husband and I came here 3 years ago, and we weren't planning on moving here permanently, but we did. We actually moved off of Bower Street, where we said we would never move to. We now own 3 homes in a lot. 2 of our homes are Airbnbs. We also have a family member that has moved here, well, not moved here, but purchased a home here and 5 lots. Our Airbnbs have brought a lot of people from all over. We don't have a parking issue, we don't have a trash issue, we don't have a noise issue. We have seen over 400 guests in 2 years. We maintain ourselves. Just like the gentleman said, if we don't provide good service, clean houses, we get bad reviews and they don't come back. I'm a 5-star host, super host. I've been one since the first quarter of starting this. This brings me to another problem up on Bower. We bought 3 homes that nobody was taking care of. They were falling down. We were told that our home that we purchased was going to be knocked down. And basically, it probably should have been. But my husband and I, we poured a lot of money into those homes. When you start driving up Bower, it's scary. We have guests that come and they ask, is it safe? Is it safe to run here? We have Northwoods Park that's just a couple of blocks away. But we have guests that wonder if they're going to be safe going to Northwoods Park. So for me, you're concerned about raising our rate to $50 a bed, which is fine. But then I ask you, what are you going to do about the homes that are on our street that are falling down? That my husband and I sit outside at night and run the homeless people off and the druggies, because that's what our street was known for. We didn't realize that when we bought the homes. We actually were told, you live where? And so now we're bringing people in, and so I'm asking the city, what are you going to do for us? We're bringing people to your city. We recommend places to drink coffee, places to eat, shows to go see, stores to shop at. But we need you all to come up and see where we're at and help us out. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dayton Myers. I'm a realtor and starting to get my feet wet in development myself with Rainbow Realty here in town. I want to start off by saying that I'm pro-development. As a realtor, I believe in growth in Hot Springs. And 90% of the time, the city board agrees with me. Our city board does a great job. Our city manager does a great job. Our city attorney does a great job. Staff does a great job. I don't think anybody here disagrees with me on that. I think we have a great city government. And, you know, the reason that they're having this forum, and I appreciate them having it, is to hear both sides. They're doing what's best. I know that y'all may disagree with whatever the outcome is, but they really have what's best in mind. You know, I am in litigation with the city of Hot Springs over a rezoning over on Malvern, one of my clients is right now. But for the most part, I agree with the way that they run the city. There's 2 things that I'm okay with on the VRBOs. One is the business licenses. That's no big deal. I think everybody's on the same page here. That's really not that big of a deal. I haven't heard anybody come out against that. And also the bed fee. As long as it's a reasonable fee, you know, $50 a bed or something like that, I don't think that that's that big of an issue. But where I think the city board might be taking this issue is towards taxing the owners of these VRBOs. Now, they're not going to be taxing necessarily the owners. The tax is going to be, and this is what I've heard, it's getting confirmed, the 3% A&P tax, they're talking about adding that to VRBOs and not just being on hotels. Again, it may be a rumor, but I've heard that. What that's going to do is pass on to the consumer a higher cost. So what are the owners going to do? They're going to have to charge more. And like some people have said, if we do that, people from out of state, people from Fayetteville and Little Rock, they're not going to come and invest money in Hot Springs if they're talking about adding the extra 3% expense right on top of the bottom line. So I think we should stay away from that, because where does that lead if we put that 3% APN tax on the short-term rentals? Do we start taxing apartments? Do we start taxing long-term rentals, for a year or more? Do we start taxing them next? I don't think that's the way we should go. The most important thing here is to be consistent, for our city board to be consistent. I support the development over on 5 Points. I think that that's going to be a great thing for our city. And a couple other things that have passed through the city board recently would be the Birchwood Bay and Lakeshore development. which is a large-scale development that a lot of the neighbors were opposed to. And the city board approved that, which I totally agree with them on. Another thing is the nursing home over on Linden Street, I believe. They're talking about adding beds over there. A lot of the neighborhood came out opposed to it. The planning commission voted unanimously to do it. So I don't think we should treat short-term VRBO people any different, short-term developers, any differently than we should treat long-term housing developers. I think we should treat them pretty equally. And like I said, I appreciate the city directors and the city staff, Mr. Burrow and Mr. Albright being here. And I think the city of Hot Springs is moving in a good direction.
Hi, my name's Dylan Driggers, and I'm a real estate agent with ESQ Realty Group here in Hot Springs, and I also help co-host over 20 Airbnbs here in town. I've got just a couple points I just want to talk about with the code regulation and rules and regs that possibly might be enforced on these Airbnbs. I think don't just necessarily need to be applied to the short-term rentals. I think you need to look at all motels, hotels across town, all the Motel 6s. I mean, even Arlington. I mean, it is a big staple that a lot of people come here for, but I mean, I know that's a $1 million investment opportunity for somebody to do, but we have investors coming out of state spending millions and millions of dollars on specifically Airbnb properties to build their portfolios. I also think that, with developing these rules and regs, that the cities, they don't need to deter away investors, but more importantly, they also don't need to cross a boundary that is possibly unconstitutional with owners of real estate that are operating them as short-term rentals, like there was a case in Austin, Texas about that. Another one is with the amount of short-term rentals that are here in Hot Springs, the Garland County area, there's a minimum of 960 that I've been able to view that during COVID, it's allowed tourism to still excel. We never really died down from COVID because we were able to keep our tourism up when hotels shut down, when restaurants shut down, because we were still a hub that tourists and out of town people who live 5 hours, 6 hours away could still come to, spend money, and enjoy their time during the epidemic that we have all experienced. And I think short-term rentals have played a big role in that here in Hot Springs. I would also, like the board to, kind of figure out a point of when owners apply for these business licenses, if those licenses are, possibly attached to the property, or are they attached to the owner? I know there was some language in the ordinances that touched upon that, but if it could be, a little bit clearer on, let's say I purchased a short-term rental, applied for the business license, it's now on my property, but if I wanted to sell it to another investor, does that business license just be able to transfer over to a new entity that owner is setting up? Less paperwork, this and that for them going forward. And I know that a big topic was sanitation, parking, and code for safety, but I do know parking is kind of an issue all around the city that also needs to be addressed, but I do understand that within subdivisions and small communities that is an issue. So that's all I have. Thank you, Ford, and everybody.
Hello, my name is Steve Webster. I'm the president of Hot Springs Landlord Association. I'm also a reserve deputy in Garland County. I'm very involved in my community. There's one thing for sure, I think everybody's made a pretty good point here. The short-term rentals are here to stay. I think they're a good thing for the city. They bring out the property values. But I want to touch on some other issues as far as, we had some people talking about neighborhoods and the big giant developments going on and stuff like that. I'm not going to address those right off, but The short-term rentals do bring up the neighborhoods, they do improve the property values, but we do have a lot of neighborhoods that need help. I speak for a lot of mom and pop landlords. Everybody thinks landlords got all kinds of money and can spend all kinds of money, make their properties as nice as the short terms, and it's just not reasonable. So my question to the city would be, or for them to think about, is where's all this money going to come from? I don't have a problem with bed fees or business licenses and all that kind of stuff, as long as they're reasonable and they're affordable. But what are we going to do with all that money? Is there ways that we can put that money back in the community, improve the housing, improve the neighborhoods, crime, whatever you want to talk about? So that's really all I got to say. I just want to say thank you for letting everybody talk here tonight. I think we can do a lot of things with this city if we put our heads together. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Well, I want to first want to thank Steve Harrison and his staff for allowing us to use this room tonight. I want to thank the board for not only being here tonight, but taking up this challenge. The easiest thing for us to do is to ignore it, but that's not what we do. We're not afraid of challenges. We're not afraid to take up the tough issues and find that mediation that needs to happen to come up with a solution that works for all parties. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you kind of get a little bit on each side, or maybe not everybody's totally happy on both sides, but that's usually a pretty good compromise. But we're going to take the comments we heard tonight. I can tell you that I think everyone that spoke tonight had some good points, and that's what I'm going to take away from this evening. I don't think we've got an easy road ahead over the next 6 weeks because there are vast differences in opinions on this subject. But I can tell you we're going to work very hard as staff to bring a product back to the board that we can work through. It's going to take multiple meetings. It's going to take several, probably 2 or 3 work sessions with the board to bring this information to them, get additional direction, and keep moving. But I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up tonight and taking the initiative to work through this issue. It's people like you that come out and get involved in the community, especially during any type of a rulemaking process, that really helps us find that solution that works for both sides. So thank you again for coming out tonight, and we'll have this video on the YouTube channel, city's YouTube channel, in the morning. Again, if you have other comments that you'd like to make, STRCOMMENTS, it's STR comments with an S at cityhs.net. Thank you very much for being here tonight.